Welcome back. It's another edition of the Taking the Reins preview show. We have another festival meeting at Hollywood Bets Kenilworth this weekend, and it's headlined by none other than our very own Derby trial type event known as the Politician Stakes, which is not the biggest of fields, but loaded with quality from the sophomore crop, now looking to go over a bit more ground. Headlined none other than by At My Command, who's the top-rated horse in the field, and he meets quite a few improving scopy types of horses that have gone a little bit under the radar. With me to take you through the race meeting, we've got jockey MJ Bailefeld. MJ, welcome to the discussion, and we've been building up to, obviously, the Met coming up, the WSB Met at the end of the month. You yourself won that particular race. Take us through the highlights of that day.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Thanks for having me. And I must say, just add to it, every week it's been very exciting racing, and every Saturday there's something to look forward to. So exciting, small field, as you said, with the Politician, but competitive race. Getting back to the Met, we had the draw done. I was rather jealous that my name wasn't up and not being able to take part and not have the pressure to go pull a draw. But it was fantastic. I had one of the worst draws. Lucky enough to ride a very good
Where
horse.
were you drawn that year?
13.
13.
Yeah.
And the field size?
I think there were 15 horses.
So quite a deep draw.
Yeah, I was just fortunate that it planned out like we worked it. I saw Pierre was going to go lead us, and I'll go and sit second, and jumped out from 13, went across, got the lead, Rainbow Bridge behind me, and yeah, the rest is history. It was obviously fantastic, but as I say, it's sad that one can't be part of those anymore.
Of course, obviously a little bit of missing out. But obviously in that era, it was Hill 54, which you won the race on. Mayfair Speculators era, and Anton Marcus was the retained rider, and you managed to keep the ride on that. Take us through that whole process. How did you manage to retain the ride? What was Anton riding? Refresh our memories.
Justin, I actually ran second on Hill 54, and the next year Anton won on him.
Correct.
Actually, I won on One World, so it was a couple of years later when I got beat. Aldo beat me. It was quite a bitter pill to swallow, and obviously Anton was retained, and next year he got the ride, and pretty much similar. He took horse to the front, and I think the year earlier he was just a weak horse. That's basically what counted. I mean, he was a bit older, and then the next year he came and won it. One World, Mr. Marshall prepped his career to the T. He had a good 3-year-old career, and then came in there as an older horse, strong enough, and he was a very, very gutsy horse.
Fantastic. Obviously, that was the dynamic. Sorry, you got a little bit confused about the time. But your other big race horse, obviously, and is obviously not the greatest of memories, but in your shortish career, comparing to how long it could have gone on for, you obviously had that big win on the Cape Met of that year on One World, associated with some big horses, Hill 54, One World, etc. And then you obviously had Wiley Hall in the Durban July, which passed the post first and obviously lost the race. How was that whole thing? Obviously, there was a bit of a downer for you in the months that followed that particular event, but how were the emotions and the feelings after winning a race like that and having it taken away? Obviously, very difficult.
Yeah, Justin, I think I'll tell you what, going past the post, I was in disbelief. I went to the academy, a young kid from Warmbars, not knowing what about the Durban July, and eventually got there, and here we are, going past the post, and I was like, did that just happen? I couldn't believe it. Bernard, my friend, obviously, he came to the winning post, after winning post, came to me and said, you just won it. And I was basically, I had no words. And then Richard was screaming at me, obviously there was interference, and it was basically from the highest high in your career to the lowest low within 2 minutes. So walked into the staff's room and inexperience, and I think had this had happened now or a bit later in my career, might have said something different in the staff's room. You don't know. I don't know if it would have turned around, but yeah, it might have been different.
Anyway, it's a very accomplished jockey's career that you had, and it's great to have you doing work for the TV. But let's jump straight into it, MJ. We've got race 2. We won't take too much time on this particular event, but we've earmarked Sharapova here as probably the best bet on the card, round about 7 to 10 at the moment. We'll jump straight into that rerun. And we've seen, MJ, the Raiders have done particularly well over the course of the season, especially festival meetings, and this filly just looks like the right one, doesn't she? She's bumped the right type of race, her running style, she's always up there, and she found one better on the day here in her last run, but I think this particular field, MJ, looks like the right race for her.
Yeah, for sure. If you showed the replay a little bit early on, I think it's the first time she went down left-hand bend and she did not corner, and I think that was a major factor in her actually getting beat. In this day, she was on the wrong leg, Muzi unfortunately couldn't get her to change legs and actually take the corner. And she's been here now and she'll be more comfortable. She's got a decent draw. Keegan the Medal riding her. I think she'll be hard to beat.
Fantastic. Well, that looks like the opener, and for all the punters out there putting in your multiples, that's got to be the right horses. Mark de Kock looks to saddle a festival winner. Let's jump into race 5. We've got a rerun here of number 1, Bereave, and the reason we've gone with this rerun is because we have quite a lot of collateral form here out of the Cape Merchants. Now, this was a 20-runner sprint event, and the likes of Safe Return were in this too, Barcelona further down the card. But you'll see Bereave, MJ. Bereave is not even in screen. Miles behind there, pops up with the purple colours right on the outside rail. Had about 2-3 horses behind him with 400 to go. And I think we've seen in these races so far this summer, MJ, that the sprints, the paces haven't really been on early, and it's been hard to come from off the speed. But you'll see Bereave really flashing home well late. Vaughan Marshall's horse Safe Return also in this event. Here's Bereave running on. It just looks like with MJ, the top sprinters going for the Cape Flower on WSB Met Day, that this could be just the right race for this horse.
Yeah, most definitely. And he's drawn one now. Just looking at that race, the two horses, him and Safe Return, they were both on either side of the track. And now they're drawn 1 and 2. So Bereave might be getting a lead from Safe Return and could work in his favour. If not, the tactics change on Safe Return. We'll see on the day. I know Safe Return is half a kilo better off, but he'll have need to improve half a length on that. So it depends how the race is going to work out, but everything looks like it's pointing at Bereave.
Absolutely. If we look at other horses, I think they're near the top of the boards, although it's pretty open. I think this horse of Ricky Maingard's, MJ, number 5, Street Outlaw, he's gone a few times over a trip. He doesn't stay. He's a sprinter, this horse. And if you look at his form over 1,200 metres up the Hollywood Bets Kenilworth Straight, it's really, really good. Penultimate start, second behind We're Jamming. He comes into the race with 52 as a young 3-year-old. He's got to be alive here.
Yeah, massive runner. He's drawn 5, so you'll have his eye on both those horses we just spoken about. 52 on his back. Obviously draw a line through his last run, but his previous form behind We're Jamming, and that it's very competitive form. 52 on his back. He's going to be a big runner. Mr. Maingard's in great form. He's done a great job, and his horses look very well.
I think if we go further down the page, there's a horse here, quite an interesting horse that Brett Crawford trains, called Mufasa, number 8. Now, he came off a bit of a layoff about 6 months or so. First run in a very strong race, the Winchester Sprint Cup, which was on Lormron's King's Plate Day. So quite a quick turnaround, only 2 weeks, 3 weeks about. But for a horse who's come off quite a long rest, you know, a little bit of maybe second run after rest syndrome there. But the report from the yard and the jockey was that he probably needs a little bit further than that 1,000 metres, and he was really in touch with them and just needed that last little bit of the race. So him and a horse like Barcelona, who's been coming from off the speed and only been getting a few lengths now, dropping in class. You've got to, MJ, respect these 4-year-old horses that are coming in with low weights.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, this time of the year, the wind could pick up and could be a howling southeast, and normally Meta, it does pick up quite strongly, and it could suit these type of horses. As you said, it might be a little bit close to the time of his last run, but it's a 5 furlong. I don't think it makes it, a 6 furlong now. Doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, Brett's a great conditioner, and running behind Mr. Cobbs is a competitive field. I'm sure Mr. Cobbs will be in the Flying Championship, if I'm not mistaken. So it's strong form. Yeah,
it is strong form, and obviously they come into the race with pretty handy galloping weights for older horses. So that's the end of our first segment of the show. As we touched on there, just to summarize, Sharapova looks like the real strong opening bet for the card in race 2 at about 7 to 10. And have a look at some each way value in Bereave for race 5. We'll be back after this with the main event. Well, race 7 is the Politician Stakes Group 3. It's being run for 300,000 Rand. Now, this is the first time that the sophomores get to go over a bit of a trip in their season post the Hollywood Bets Guineas, as obviously we build towards the Cape Derby, which will be run at the end of February. And we've seen MJ, obviously cousin Casey's elected to go in the main event, the WSB Met next week, so that takes a little bit of shine off a race like this where he maybe could have run. But competitive race, and rightfully so, At My Command is at the top of the betting boards. What do you make?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, rating. I mean, I think he's 12 points ahead of the next horse in the field, Grinkov, and put cousin Casey in here. And I think Brett and them were very relieved to see him not run in this race. And yeah, he looks like a horse that would be going the ground. And on form, he should be a hard horse to beat. But he's giving 6 kilos to some of the other up and coming young horses, and the weight over the distance could be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, it could be. I think if there's obviously a chink in his armour, that's going to be it. He is obviously the well-exposed horse if you comparing form lines here. I mean, if we just rattle off some of the names, the horses he's run behind in his last three, Charles Dickens, cousin Casey Charles Dickens, and you look at his opposition, a horse like Rockpool, Bardolino, Sakue and Nevada King. Not exactly quite the same bracket of competition.
Yeah, you look at that, I mean, even 60 kilos, he should be a penalty kick. You just obviously, I don't know, you're looking at weights and things like this, you're looking to make it difficult for the horse. But if you purely go on pure form, he'll be a very hard horse.
He's the horse to beat. And I remember in this race, I think a good couple of years now, Twist of Fate also was a similar profile. He came in here with about 60 giving weight away, and I think he went on to win the race quite well. So he's definitely got to be the horse to beat. But let's look at the slightly under the radar 3-year-olds that the handicapper hasn't caught, and we potentially caught, and we spoke about Rockpool, and we'll dive into his rerun here where he defeated Nevada King last time. Now MJ, this horse, look at him on the inside there. Very, very interesting actioned horse. Picked him up a few runs ago when he went down to the start. He's got a monster of an action. He gets his head quite low and he throws those forelegs out. And he still looks gangly and looking what to do with his action as he grows and matures and gets racing experience. But when he puts it down and he drops and quickens, I mean, he puts the race to bed and he looks like a really scopy individual.
Yeah, Justin, interesting, this horse's action. It's very interesting. You get some of these horses with a big action, but they're more low, and on the harder ground, they seem to be more fluent. I'd like to see those horses in the winter in the Cape and see what he's going to do with that action here. It could, I don't know, for me, just watching this and seeing some horses perform in the winter, he's going to be, with time to come, he'll be an interesting horse to follow.
Yeah, he's a super smart horse, and I think he's come to hand maybe to this level a little bit quicker than the stable thought he would. They've nailed him down as a potential Derby type of horse, but he's really put his hand up as a horse with big potential, and one that'll be in the Cape Derby hopefully at the end of the month, and then, as you say, maybe the Winter Series, which is now open to older horses this year as well, instead of going to Durban. That will depend on how he performs in the Group 1 at the end of February. But his stable companion, number 9, Inamorare, he's a horse who's done nothing wrong. I mean, he's won his last 2 starts. He's going through the divisions. I must say, I did speak to the Snaiths before this coming on air here, and Jonathan Snaith, in typical Snaith racing fashion, was very, very confident on number 10, Rockpool. He said, make sure you tell the public not to banker at my command so they don't go out and they stay in their exotics. And we also obviously just had to report, 2 weeks ago, these horses galloped here at Hollywood Bets Kenilworth, and Rockpool put up a phenomenal gallop. And Inamorare, unfortunately, who's a horse I have a little stake in, so I'm a little bit biased when it comes to him, but he put up a very below par gallop, and we were a bit touch and go whether he was going to run here. But his bloods and everything pulled up fine, so we're going to take a chance. But I think that's played also in Richard's mind on his jockey selection here. He's gone for Rockpool. You as a rider prepping horses going into big races, if a horse gives you a below par gallop, does that take a bit of sting out the tail for you?
Yeah, Justin, coming to these big races, I've always said, obviously been very involved in Mr. Marshall's yard. When you see the vets come to the stables on a Thursday morning, then you start worrying. And I used to look all the time where they're going and to what horses they, especially when it comes to the big races. You don't want any hiccups, and horses tell you if they normally put up an average gallop, it's okay, you can deal with it. But like you can, as you say, like Richard would have known and seen, it's not ideal. You don't want that. Yeah. You want them to be performing 99% of the time. If they always show some good work, they come here and they do average gallop, they'll show it at the races that they're not in form. So good comments from Justin them that they made that decision, or actually just pointed out that the horse didn't gallop well. But a lovely horse, and he'll be competitive.
Absolutely, and quick shout out there to the stable companion, without question, who's got to have a chance. This Scalini, what do you make of him going the trip?
Yeah, I think it's also that Mr. Marshall's been dying to get it to go over the ground. Cornet, when he won on him, took him to the front in a very slow run race, and he just sort of kept on. He's got a big heart. He just kept on galloping, and his last start, he might have been a little bit keen in that, but the horse drawn 3:55 on his back. It'll be exciting to see how he's going to run. Mr. Marshall's horses also, you can see in the mornings, they've turned the corner. They obviously had a big issue, and same as Andre Nels, but you can see the horses are fresh. These horses Monday morning jumping out of their skin, so the stable's about to turn. Very
good news. Well, let's go into the 8th race. It's a classified stakes, the Hollywood Bets Bright Future event, as they close out the last with that event at every meeting. 1,800 meters. Now, MJ, we picked out a rerun here, and this is another Snaith horse, number 4, Mucho Dinero, who, let's be honest, probably could have found himself in the Politician Stakes in any other year, and they elected to go into this type of route with him. He is at the back in the green cap of the Nick Johnson runners. He renews rivalry with his stablemate Cosmic Event, who's on the lead now. And MJ, when he gets gets it together here, he lengthens and he quickens very well to win going away. He should be able to beat Cosmic Event here, and he looks like really good value in this race at 3-1.
Yeah, Nick Johnson's been fortunate. Both of his horses in the last 2 races looks like they're very nice horses. This was one a very good race. Also with a beautiful action. I think it's one of those where you're hard to beat. A good draw. It's obviously carrying a bit of weight, but deservingly so, and a horse that's going to go on and win some good races, I think.
Talk to us about number 13, Professor Snape.
Yeah, Mr. Marshall's always thought highly of this horse. I think his last start, I don't know, he didn't look happy in the race, and he never picked up the bit. I saw him work this morning. I saw him work before he ran last time. It's 2 different horses, I can tell you that. He's a lovely horse. Unfortunately, the Marshall Yard's got no luck with draws. They're in the bush the whole time, so it'll be difficult for Kone, but that's why he's there. He needs to do his job. He's a lovely horse. As I said, Mr. Marshall expected quite a lot from him, or will expect a lot from him, and he'll be on the improve. He's going to enjoy the 1800 meters, and a very, very nice horse.
Very good. And just in wrapping up, I mean, Brett Crawford's got a couple of horses in here. He's got some maidens in here. We were chatting off air, and funny enough, one of them's running in this race, Sudden Stong. There was a classified stakes, I think it was in the earlier part of our season, where Brett ran 2 maidens. They ran 1st and 4th. In the same week, Justin Snaith ran Betty Boop, a maiden, fillies handicap, and won. So the maidens have been doing pretty well against winners, and he's elected to run a few here. They've got to have chances at the weights.
Yeah, definitely. I called him and just asked him what the reason for it is. He says he's got a couple of these horses that go over ground, and a couple of maidens, so he wants to split them up. And as you said, they get a bit of weight advantage over the ground. It gives them a chance, and you've pointed it out. They haven't run too badly in these classified stakes, so I would not leave them out just because they're maidens. They get the allowance and they stay well.
Well, MJ, thank you very much for giving us your opinion and your views on the runners. It's going to be a fantastic race meeting at Hollywood Bets Kenilworth this weekend. Make sure you're tuned in if you're not here. And just remember, best bet Sharapova. She's the one to open the meeting with all those multiples. And look out for big runs from Mucho Dinero and Bereave at each way value. Thanks for watching the show, and we'll be back with none other than the WSB Met next week.